Hi everyone, welcome. It's been a long time since I've done a Facebook Live, so hopefully this goes off okay with the technical details. We'll get started in 1 minute. Okay, it's 12 o'clock on the dot, Friday, for 15 minutes at 12 noon Eastern. I'm going to be going live to answer frequently asked questions about job searching and careers, as well as any questions you have. So please don't be shy. Thank you for watching today. I am Marcelle Yeager from Career Valet. We've been around since 2012, helping job seekers get to the next level of their careers. And this is our first Take 15 Career Q&A, which is happening every Friday from 12 to 12:15 Eastern Time here on Facebook Live. Comment below as you join us to tell us where you're watching from. I am outside of Washington, D.C. currently, and I'd love to see where you are. At the end of this live, I'm going to share with you our free interview guide, which will give you ways to answer some really tough interview questions. And you'll also get some sample questions to ask in an interview yourself. So let's start with a question that I get asked an awful lot. One is about salary. So a lot of people ask, how should I state a salary range if I'm asked either online in an application or once I get to the stage where I'm in the interview? And I'm going to answer that in one moment, but please, yay, DC, welcome. Please enter where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to know. And then any questions you have, and I will come back to those after I talk about the salary question. So, as far as salary goes, my best recommendation is number one, to research. And when I say research, that means talk to people you know who have similar positions. And if you can't do that, even if you can, you should probably do this as well. Look online at PayScale, salary.com, and other Glassdoor, other references like that to get an idea of what people are getting paid for your type of role at your level in your geography. And do a bit of research to figure that out. I know it's not always easy on LinkedIn or Indeed to see what the salary might be, so check out those other sites. Again, that was PayScale, Glassdoor, salary.com, and see what that would look like. Two, I want you to think about what the lowest amount you'd be happy with is, because I think too many of us think, well, I'd be okay if it was 70,000. But really, you want to figure out, after you take into account what that research you've done says, what in fact is the lowest amount you would be happy with. So, because you don't want to end up getting lowballed and being told, okay, we're going to give you 65,000 and you were really hoping for 75,000. So make sure to do that before you go in to state a range. So the third piece, yay, Boston, Massachusetts, I'm from New Hampshire, welcome. So please, when you go do your range, I want to encourage you to do something I heard recently, which has worked really well for our clients. And that is to not state a range like 120 to 130 or 120 to 140, but actually say, I'm looking for something in the 120s or 130s. There's something psychological about that where instead of then coming back to you and offering you like 120, which is at the bottom of your range, you then have more leverage when they do come back to you and give you an offer to say, well, I was really looking for something more like, closer to 130. And it just feels, for some reason, feels a little more comfortable. Maybe you don't agree, but I think it's worked really well for folks, and it's a little bit more comfortable than saying like 125 to 135. So again, do those three things. One, do your research. Two, figure out the lowest amount that you'd actually be happy with, not just okay with, but happy with. Say, like, you'd be really excited to get that salary and go up from there at the bottom of your range. And number three, come up with that range. But instead of giving an exact number, state it in terms of, those tens. So whether it's 80s to 90s or 110s to 120s, whatever it might be, make sure you have that range in mind and use it. So before I go on, I'm just going to take a look. Does anyone have any questions before I talk more about negotiations? I'd be more than happy instead to answer your questions. So if anyone has any, please drop them in. There's no question that's stupid. We're happy to answer anything. So as you think about questions you might have about your job search, or just things you're wondering, there's a lot out there. I know people give conflicting advice all the time about everything from resumes to cover letters. So please feel free to ask about that too. All right, great. So thank you, Allison. How do you describe your years of experience when your experience overall is a large number, but in that specific area of expertise may only be 5 years? Okay, so if I understand correctly, and feel free to ask again if I don't answer this well, but if you're talking about your experience, I think the best thing to do is to say extensive experience if you do have a large amount experience, like you're saying. So you could say whatever it is, like extensive experience in sales and marketing. But then when you're talking about your specific area of expertise, you could then state something like, I have, or if it's, say, in the top of your resume, you might state it in third person, but you might say, with 3 years of experience in design or, social media. So it's a good idea actually to do both, because it also shows that diversity of experience. So even if your expertise, if you're talking about it being different in two different areas, you can still make that statement by showing what you've done, right? More extensively, and then stating specifically the number of years you have that's less in that other area. I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to phrase it in a different way or ask something more specific as a follow-up. I think a lot of times people are nervous about putting a number because of age discrimination or feeling like they might be over or under qualified even. So I do encourage people to state that when you're more like at the mid to senior level in your career, to just state extensive or various or diverse experience in X, and then you could state that specific area afterward. Great. I will add, please continue to ask questions. I will ask, I will talk a little bit about negotiations further too, because something that comes up a lot is maybe the offer was great, but you're not as sure about everything else, right? Maybe you're happy with the money, but you don't like the leave time they're giving you or something like that. So everything is negotiable. That's what I want you to remember. And if it is, that's what's important to you. Again, it's kind of like figuring out what that low end of the salary range you'd be happy with is. Figure out really what you'd be happy with and what you're really going for. Like if it's flexible time, maybe to not work every Friday, or, now almost everybody's working remotely, but it used to be, and it might be again, that you want more time working remotely than in the office. Figure out what is most important to you. Maybe even prioritize those things in terms of the benefits that you care about the most, say in order from 1 to 3, and then decide what you want to negotiate. Don't don't think it's set in stone. I know a lot of employers will try to make you think that there's nothing we can do and there's no wiggle room. But when they really want you and they give you an offer, that is an opportunity for you to ask for what you want. Because it's, let's be honest, right? I mean, a job change is a very large life change. You spend a lot of time at work. It's important that you're happy, and employers, due to the pandemic and what's gone on the past year, are starting to realize, some slowly, some more quickly, that it is very advantageous to listen to what the employees want. And in order to retain, then they're going to have to do something about keeping them happy. So if they really want you, they should be willing to negotiate any of those points, whatever they may be. Now, I wouldn't try to go for, everything. That's why I say figure out what's most important to you. You don't want to come across as trying to negotiate everything, but say if the salary piece doesn't work out, but you're still okay with that amount that they're giving you, but you really feel uncomfortable about the other expectations or the leave time or the health benefits, bring that up next as another point. And then, maybe back off a little bit if that doesn't go anywhere. But my guess is that with one of those points, you will be able to move the needle a bit. So I hope that was helpful. Any questions about LinkedIn, resumes, cover letters, interviewing, applying, follow up? There's so many topics we could talk about, and we will from week to week jump into different areas. But if there are no other questions, I do want to tell you, oh, great, we do have another question. Thank you, Drew. What is the best way to pivot from sales into a non-quota bearing role? What other roles parallel nicely with sales? This is an excellent question, and actually had a client last year who was in sales, and we worked together. It turned out that the parts of sales that he liked, so I don't know if this is similar, were more the relationship building pieces and sort of maintaining relationships with clients and nurturing them, rather than the sales and having the quota attached, right? So what we did is work together to identify some roles that were within external relations. That was one title I think you should be looking at. Sometimes, it was called client relationship director or manager was another one. There are a lot. So if you think about that, right, that will give you a lot of opportunities, because you've got even community relations would be another one, or partnership development, partnership director, manager. And those types of roles, if you think about it, could go anywhere into almost any industry, nonprofit, government, elsewhere. So you might want to think about the industries that you're familiar with. So depending on where your sales role with, say it was in sports entertainment or something like that. Okay, there might be other opportunities, say media, other complementary industries that touch on that, or even suppliers to the entertainment industry, other partners, other vendors, anything from food and beverage to software vendors. Think about other industries that touch your industry and possibly moving into those, or staying in the same industry, but using those types of titles to try and get into a less, quota-based role, I think would be your best bet. We're almost at the 12:15 mark. So thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to drop in the comments below in one moment, so I'm not clicking around. I will post our free interview guide, which again has answers to tough questions and some sample questions you might want to ask that I find and clients find really helpful to ask in interviews. That will help sign you up for our weekly career advice email, but you can unsubscribe at any time. So there's no obligation there. It just automatically signs you up, and you can click unsubscribe if you don't want to get those anymore, if you're not finding them helpful. But Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your great questions. I look forward to seeing you all again next week, and join us next Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Take good care. Stay safe. Bye.